Okay, we're all good to see.
Great. Sorry. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. This is the Planning Committee meeting of Frome Town Council. My name's Steve Tanner. I'll be chairing this evening's meeting. We want to make our meetings available to as many people as possible, regardless of where they are. So we use a hybrid setup of here in person at the Town Hall and online via Zoom. Sure. For those in the room, a little housekeeping. The emergency exit is in the rear corner of the room and the assembly point is in the car park. Toilets can be accessed at the end of the corridor on the right-hand side, or there is an accessible toilet to the right of the lift. For panelists on Zoom, please use the electronic raise hand by clicking on the participants button at the bottom of your screen. For those in the room, please raise your hand. Attendees on Zoom can pose questions through the Q&A board. Attendees' names will become visible on the questions board for the record as your question is answered. Tonight, Jane will clerk and manage the questions board and the participant settings. The meeting will be recorded for minuting purposes and we will live stream to our YouTube channel. Questions, I'm afraid we have to use microphones here, otherwise the people on Zoom cannot hear what we're saying. So if you have questions, please use the microphones. I'll do some introductions of the people at the front here. So we've got Philip Campagna, who's currently the Mayor and Councillor, Polly Lamb, who is Deputy Chair of the Planning, Polly Lamb. Lisa Millar-Merriweather, who is the current leader of the council. My name's Steve Tanner, as I've said. Jane Llewellyn, who is the development officer at Frome Town Council. Mark Dorrington, councillor, and Hannah Benicia at the end. Right, so moving on, item number 2. Are there any questions, comments, or information from the public that obviously isn't regarding things that we're going to talk about tonight? No? And same with councillors?
Do you have an agenda that we can see?
Can we put one up? Can we put one up?
Can put one up. Or I can talk. It's just knowing what's happening in the meeting, who's speaking when, what else, what's going on.
Well, the first part of the meeting.
The last planning meeting I came to, we were all given an agenda.
Oh, okay, right. Sorry.
We've tried to go paper-free,
Yeah.
so apologies.
Yeah, we'll try and get something on screen, yeah.
Otherwise, lots of us that don't know what's going on are a bit in the dark.
No, sure.
Thank you.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay, so we just done agenda item number 1. So agenda item number 2, to agree apologies of absence. I've got Andy Jones and Fiona Barrows, who's got COVID.
We just need to vote on that.
So if you can vote on that, propose that.
Yep. That's
Thank you. Item number 3, any declaration of members' interests? None? Right. Excellent. Item number 4, to agree the minutes of the meeting held on the 29th of June 2003. Any questions? No? Someone could propose that then, please. Thank you, Philip.
Yep, that's unanimous.
Great. Item number 5, to consider the major planning applications received as per the agenda. And the first one, obviously, we will talk about is the battery site at Starves Hill. So Jane, if you could introduce that.
Thank you. Just check, can everybody... Anything yet? Right, we'll scrap that. I'll leave it on. Can you hear me now? Right, good, thank you. Okay, so the application that we're going to discuss first is number 267 on our agenda. It's for land north of Styles Close, Frome. and it's for the construction and operation of an energy storage facility with fencing, landscape planting, site access, drainage, infrastructure, lighting, CCTV equipment, and underground cabling. I will briefly go through the plans. I know that you're probably all very familiar with the plans, probably more familiar with the plans than we are, but just for the record, I will run through them. So here we have the red line location plan. So the red line being the boundary of the application site. And then on the other side here, just to show you the location in more context around Frome. Again, just to show you the location, but in an aerial shot. Hopefully, can you see my cursor moving along the screen? Yeah, so this is the stream that you'll all be familiar with. And then further to the east of the site, just that you can't see here, there's the footpath that goes across the end of the field, and that's a public footpath. Here is the site layout plan. Now it's quite a busy plan, but as I'm sure you'll all be aware, the properties are just off the plan here. The properties along Styles Close, is that right? Yeah, Styles Close. Of these buildings here are the ancillary buildings associated with the running of the storage facility, and obviously these are all the batteries themselves, and then we have the acoustic fencing that they're talking about going around. Now I have tried to measure the distance off of the plan online, so hopefully it's accurate, but from the measurements I took from the rear boundary of the properties along Styles Close to this hedge line here, I've completely forgotten what it was, but I've got a note of it. But anyway, but the closest battery to the measurement that I took was actually 32 meters away.
Might be easier to show it, sorry to interrupt, but
On this one? Oh, yes. Yeah. You're absolutely right. Yeah, so from the rear of the boundary of these properties to the closest battery was 32 meters. Yeah. Yeah. But I was using some software to do that. So unfortunately, we can't print the plans off to scale. We only get them electronically now. So moving on, these are the elevations from the outside of the site. This will be the 5-meter acoustic fencing that they're talking about going all the way around the compound. This elevation here will be the elevation that will be the view from the people who live on Styles Close. The fencing, according to the application forms, will be natural timber, and the colour of these buildings here, so the control building and the substation building, will be a shade of green. And again, ivy green or something like that. Anyway, so that'll be the outside perspective. You can also see that there will be some CCTV columns and a 2-meter acoustic fence at the other end. And again, I'm sure you've looked at all of these, but these are just the elevations of the actual units that will be behind the fencing that you can see. So the CCTV columns, and then the actual battery storage units themselves. Yes, yeah, absolutely. So as the lady in the audience has said, there will also be lighting on there. What I have read amongst the documentation is that the lighting will be angled down within the compound, but obviously when it comes to questions, if you've read something different, then obviously you'll get your opportunity to say. And again, these are just the elevations of some of the buildings that will be within the compound itself. as I said, you'll all be very familiar with these and you know exactly where it is. So I will go back to the layout plan, which is probably the most useful one for people to talk to.
Great. Thanks, Jane. Hello. Yeah, thanks, Jane. I think we've got 2 registered speakers, so we'll go to those persons first. We've got Jan Webster and Douglas Eason, so I'm not sure which order you'd like to go in for. Douglas? Okay. Right.
Happy to go first. Thank you very much for the opportunity to address you on behalf of the residents of Styles Close and the surrounding area. We'd like to make it clear that we recognize the real need at a global level to combat climate change and to reduce carbon emissions. It is a very serious problem. However, the impact that this project will have on residents is unacceptable. I'd like to start by reading you this piece of guidance from the National Fire Chiefs Council, the NFCC. Battery energy storage sites, containers, should be fitted with deflagration venting and explosion protection appropriate to the hazard. Trina Solar intends to build within 50 meters, but I think you said 32 meters, of houses with families in, with children and older people in. They want to build a facility that can explode. Now, this would be laughable if it wasn't so deadly serious. We strongly object to this planning application on the following grounds: the impact that the noise will have, the failure to truthfully declare in the application that the project involves hazardous substances, and the risk from fire. Firstly, please consider the following factors regarding noise. The increased high tonal noise generated from fans, inverters, and other components of this facility will make it really difficult for people to sleep at night with their windows open. And you may have seen that the Met Office just today has said that in coming years, we are going to see frequent temperatures of 40 degrees or more. So it's going to be pretty blimmin' important to have your windows open, and it's going to make it rather hard to sleep if you've got this noise outside. With regards to that, there is no evidence in this application proving that the 5-meter high solid wood acoustic fence would actually satisfactorily reduce or eliminate the noise that will impact the nearby residences. Furthermore, the Somerset Environmental Protection Report refuses the application on the following grounds. To quote, "The applicant has not demonstrated that the planning application will not have a detrimental impact on the amenity of nearby residential properties. In addition, it is considered that the planning application is contrary to the National Planning Policy Framework 2021 and policies DP7 and DP8 of the Mendip District Local Plan 2006-2029. It is therefore recommended that the above planning application is refused." Regarding hazardous substances, Trina Solar has failed to truthfully declare in the application that the project involves hazardous substances. On the application question, does the proposal involve the use of or storage of hazardous substances? The applicants answered no. All lithium metal batteries have been designated as UN 3090 Class 9 dangerous goods, and Class 9 dangerous goods are recognized by the British Health and Safety Executive. The NFCC has the following to say on UN code dangerous goods. Quoting, "Dangerous goods are firstly assigned to one of 9 hazardous classes according to their primary hazard. Secondly, an assessment is made of the relative hazard of the substance within the same class, and the substance is assigned to one of 3 packing groups. Furthermore, hazardous materials and environmental protection advisors are required to support fire crews in the event of a lithium battery fire." So these Class 9 goods, these LFP, lithium iron phosphate batteries, are a hazardous substance, and the applicants have not stated that a significant part of the nature of their project is the storage of hazardous substances. Dame Maria Miller, MP, is currently leading on an amendment to the Energy Bill, which will categorize BESS sites as hazardous. The second reading was in May. The new law would mean that the Environment Agency, Health and Safety Executive, and the Fire Service would have to be consulted prior to a BESS planning application being considered. The precautionary principle should therefore be invoked, looking at the current plan, and in the absence of clear legislation on this matter and the abundance of evidence of the danger of these BESS facilities, we strongly urge you to reject this application. To continue, Trina Solar's failure to turn up here today shows the utter contempt that they have for residents in Styles Close. Suddenly, after realizing that we aren't going to take this, being walked all over, they've recognized that their bonuses are in jeopardy, and they are wanting to propose the committee postpone this meeting. If they can't be bothered to be professional enough to turn up here and face the people whose lives they are endangering, they certainly shouldn't be put in charge of a dangerous facility that sits right in the middle of residential areas. Concerning the risk of fire, there is a reason why Trina Solar mentions fires in only 2 paragraphs of the planning statement. They know how dangerous lithium battery facilities and these storage sites are, and they don't want to alert you to that knowledge. This BESS shouldn't be anywhere near homes with children and older people in. Trina Solar will say that lithium iron phosphate LFP batteries are the safest type of lithium battery. However, they are still extremely dangerous. Regarding lithium battery storage facilities, the NFCC says fire detection and monitoring systems should alert local fire services if there is a thermal runaway. Trina Solar's fire detection system, their fire suppression system, does not appear to do this. The NFCC also says, and I quote, current research indicates the installation of water-based suppression systems for fires involving cell modules is more effective than gaseous suppression systems, like the gaseous suppression systems that Trina Solar intends to use. Continuing, the NFCC states the installation of gaseous suppression systems for electrical fires that do not involve cell modules may be appropriate, but should be built into a wider suppression strategy. Furthermore, they say that gaseous suppression systems don't last long enough to guarantee the extinguishing of a fire. They only work once, and a lithium battery fire can reignite itself. They also state that a cooling system should be in place to support fire protection. These points clearly show that Trina Solar's fire suppression system is inadequate. What's more, their application does not give adequate details on the software that will be used to remotely manage this BESS. Trina Solar doesn't appear to be on the UK government's Cyber Essentials Register, which helps to guard against cyber attacks. If a hostile individual or group got control of Trina Solar's energy management system, they could potentially create a disaster by causing the batteries to overcharge or discharge too quickly. LFP batteries can catch fire if they are overcharged, if they discharge too quickly, overheat, or if they are punctured and the chemicals react with just moisture in the air. They can also release toxic fumes that can lead to death if inhaled, and they can cause chemical burns to the skin. This technology in lithium batteries is so new, and they are so devastating when they catch fire that national fire services have yet to receive training on how to handle these fires. The NFC guidance is effectively to just leave them to burn out and try and stop the flames from spreading. Furthermore, the site plan does not show the substation pylon and the high voltage overhead lines going right over the batteries, which is a hazard. There have been over the years several bird strikes on the power lines and insulators, resulting in loud bangs and damage necessitating repairs to be carried out. Devon and Somerset Fire and Rescue have only got 2 fire engines at the Frome fire station, and their attendance at a fire depends on their availability. All this suggests that Frome Fire Services may not have the resources to deal with a lithium battery fire. Lastly, on this point, Trina Solar hasn't shown any plans for what will happen to residents if there is a fire. Other than the main road, there is only one evacuation point in the Styles Close cul-de-sac. It is a flight of stairs leading onto Rodden Road. Someone with mobility complications may feel forced to head towards smoke and flames in order to escape. Trina Solar clearly has no concerns for the safety of residents. As far as they are concerned, the BESS is unmanned and therefore there is no risk to human life. They are just focused on profits and will say anything to convince you that there is nothing to fear. However, all the evidence shows that BESS facilities are a literal time bomb waiting to go off. So, what would happen if Styles Close site set a precedent of BESS site installations being established close to other residential areas? We note in relation to this that the Merseyside Chief Fire Officer's final fire report following the September 2020 lithium BESS fire cited potential risks to off-site premises. Please take all of this into consideration. Please don't let residents be endangered in this way. And please, please reject this proposal right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very comprehensive. Thank you indeed. I've got Joan Webster now.
Thank you. I'm not sure I could add anything more to that. I'm Janet Webster, and I live at 95 Styles Close, which backs directly onto the field in which the site is going to be proposed. When I first heard of the plans to build a lithium battery storage facility 50 meters away from my house, my first concerns were with the sound levels. The applicants have not been honest about the levels we can expect. I can only presume that their evasiveness is because they know that the noise levels are unacceptable. I fear for my mental health. Being exposed to constant mechanical noise is surely a form of torture. The proposed 5-meter fence is frankly inadequate, even if my house wasn't situated above the site and my upstairs rooms above the level of the fence. Sound just doesn't work like that. I'm afraid the fence is a sop. It's a pretty pathetic one at that. It's also massively unsightly, but I'm pleased to see that the proposers have given us the assurance that they'll paint it a tasteful green. It all got much worse when a group of concerned residents started to investigate the proposal. We were horrified to discover that the batteries are not even safe. The batteries present a huge risk of explosion and fire. The effects could be catastrophic for all the reasons that my colleague has explained. Fire chiefs all over the country have been expressing concern about the use of lithium batteries. The site proposed is situated directly underneath high voltage cables. We have approached the fire service here, but have not heard from them to know how they will deal with an emergency. Trina Solar have no contingency plans in case of fire, and our local fire service is inadequate to deal with the battery site fires on the site. The site is cramped, and would the services be able to cope with the lack of space for the manoeuvring of firefighting vehicles? These are all questions that we live with. Wakefield Fire Chief estimated it would take 5.5 million litres of water to cool a fire in the proposed site in Yorkshire. If left to die, as has been suggested it could be, down on its own, there would be a resultant toxic plume of vapour and smoke. How is this green? We all know how necessary it is to go forward with green energy, but the applicants should not be allowed to hide behind green credentials. This is purely a financially driven enterprise. Trina Solar are completely unconcerned with the effects of their plant on local residents. They seem to be pretending their batteries are safe. In respect, they are, I think, to the normal person in the street, seeming to be untrustworthy. This proposal is morally and ethically bankrupt. Is Frome Town Council, really willing to gamble with the health and safety of its residents? In case of a catastrophe or fire, residents north of the south, which includes the primary school, will also be put at risk. Surely a site away from this residential area could be found. I believe this is the first proposal in the country to be sited in the middle of a residential area. Is this an experiment Frome Town Council is prepared to back? Is the council prepared to face the tsunami of litigation and criticism which would ensue from a fire which could so easily turn into a major incident? This proposal is patently unsafe. I have difficulty believing that it's been given any consideration at all. Please reject this proposal outright. Until you do, you will consign the residents surrounding the proposed facility to a life lived in fear for our own safety and well-being.
Thank you very much. I'm guessing there are going to be other questions. So what I'll do is I'll start at this end and just work my way across, if that's okay. So, Shane.
Hi, I'm Councillor Shane Collins, councillor for the Frome East Ward, including this. I had hoped that the Trini Solar representative would be here because I've got quite a few questions that are probably more directed at them rather than what one can find from the application. But they were, which part of the development will the noise be coming from? I'm not quite clear whether it's the buildings to the closest or whether it's each battery. And I'm surprised they haven't put any conditions on operating times. We've already got a gas generator on the trading estate, which is causing a lot of problems for neighbours on Keyford when the wind comes from the west. And we've been trying to change the operating time of that. But so yeah, if this does go to planning board, which I've certainly asked for it to do so, and if they are minded to pass it, there must be strict conditions on operating times, and I suggest 7:30 to 9:30 and not till 10, which the other one is. As for Trini Solar, I mean, it's a funny thing, isn't it? It's an Italian-run, UK-registered, tax-based in Luxembourg and Chinese-owned. So this is a narrow agenda planning meeting which can't take ownership into account, but it's not local green energy. The other things I was going to suggest to the Trini representative was more hedging and trees near the houses to provide more sound muffling. The green space there, if it is going to go ahead, let's make more use of that green space. And I was very interested in other examples of this sort of battery park. South Somerset's one, which is about the same size, 30 megawatts. And also there's a 50 megawatt one in Burwell in Cambridgeshire. I would have been interested to get sound readings from the Trini Solar representative. And the other thing is to ask him, how many other accidents, fire accidents, have we had from these sort of installations? We've heard about the one in Merseyside in Liverpool, but yeah, I was wanting more clarity on how many times these sort of installations have had fire accidents. But yeah, just to sum up, I have asked for it to the chair and vice chair to bring it into planning board and it not to go ahead on officers' recommendations as the last gas generating system did on the trading estate. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. I'll take any more. I'll just work my way along. Just raise your hand if you want. So, hang on, if you could use the microphone, please.
Hello, Diane Ashman, resident of Styles Close. I'd like to make an observation and I'd also like to ask a question. The observation is that not only is there a first school in close vicinity that would be affected, I'm sure, by vapours, there is also a very large nursing home that backs onto the lane that backs onto Styles Close. And my question is, as a resident of Styles Close, that would also have to use the same evacuation point as any of those other residents, why was I not informed of this planning proposal? Why did I not receive a letter, along with many other residents of Styles Close? Other streets, not Styles Close, further away, received letters. The newer residences on streets of Hillside Drive and Elworthy Court, New Road, all received
So
notification.
the Hillside Drive is the other side of
Rodden Lane,
Rodden Lane.
yep.
Okay. Do you want to-
Yeah, I'll try. I'm not sure I can answer it very well. So the Somerset Council, when they receive the planning applications, they will select a series of addresses to consult based on the site plan. I'm not quite sure how they do that anymore. It used to be if there was an adjoining boundary or like a distance zone. So I can't really answer your question.
So although I may live further away than the residents that back onto the site, I have to drive past them to exit Styles Close. It has one entry point.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, it's a map-based system, and that's how they do it. I mean, I'm not saying it's right. It's just part
No,
way to give
but
you an
I
explanation.
don't understand that because I would live closer than residents in other roads that have
Yeah.
received notification. It seems on somebody's part,
We'll make the observation to Somerset East that a lot of residents didn't. No.
it seems deceitful and as if something is being hidden as opposed to it all being in the open.
Thank you. Helen, do you want to say anything about that? Sorry, I forgot I didn't see you were here.
Hello, I'm the other ward councillor for this area, though Shane actually looks after this particular patch and knows far more than I do about these kind of facilities. I'm also on the planning board. So just to be really clear, the Frome Town Council here is advisory and they will make a decision and then I'll go up to planning board. I can't be predetermined, so I can't say whether or not, but I think that the presentations that we've had today, you get 3 minutes at planning board. Both Shane and I have asked for it to be referred up, so you'll get 3 minutes when it goes to planning board. And I've had a reply, I don't know if you've had a reply yet, Shane, but I've had a reply from Nikki White, who's the officer, saying that yes, if she's minded to approve it, she'll definitely refer it up to planning board. So it'll have another airing, right? With regard to your question, I'm not sure anymore how they do it, but I've got a feeling, amazingly, as it's spatial planning, that they don't actually look at a map when they when they decide who they're going to notify. And I will raise it because they're changing their systems. They're reviewing all their systems, and I can raise it as an issue because it's not the first time it's happened. That they need to have. It's often a junior member of staff that's doing it, and they're just probably looking on an electoral register of some sort and looking at it by postcode. So I'm not quite sure how they're doing it. No, it isn't. So what I need to do is get them to look at the actual map and to do it using a map. And I'll push for that again. I mean, it comes up regularly. I'm sorry to say.
Thanks, Helen. Lady here, sorry. No, come back to you, Wendy.
Tina Milden, I live in Styles Close as well. I've got two things. One is the application stated that it was vacant land. And it's not. It's leased at the moment by somebody who grazes horses on there. So it's not available. She's got an existing lease for 3 years. And she's been leasing it for a fair number of years, at least 10 years. So she's an established lessee. Lisa, whatever. My other thing is that should there be a fire, and the fire services attend, it's a slope. So any runoff of water, if it's used, and chemicals that are released as part of their fire extinguishing system will go into the river. It's just down the bottom and it's a slope. So if it's how many million litres, you know, yeah. So all that could end up polluting, because it's just along there that it goes into the actual river frame. So it will be straight along, and crikey knows what devastation will occur because of it.
Thank you. We did meet the lady with the who was grazing the horses when we met residents before. I mean, do you know if she has a copy of the lease? She right, okay. So yeah, it is recent, is it? Okay, yeah. That's not a planning consideration for us, but it's very important that she has that and keeps hold of that going forward, because as you say, if she does have the lease of the land, that will happen. No idea. Yeah. Yeah.
Steve, can I just say something
Yeah,
before
sure.
we go to Wendy? I just wanted to say that what Helen's raising is, I think, needs to be clarified before we go on. Is the limitations of what we can do today, or what we are doing, just in case anybody isn't familiar with the planning process and what it is that we are here to do. I think that needs to be made really clear, just from some of the wording that's gone on, is that, you know, we can't reject or accept or pass this. Is that all right? Would you mind? What was it? One of you mind?
Yeah. Do you want
Yeah, happy to. So Frome Town Council, as are all parish councils, are statutory consultees in the process, in actually the same way that you have been consulted as residents. We get consulted and we get 21 days to respond normally. We have asked for an extension of time to give our response on this particular application, given that it's such a big, complicated application. Then our comments are taken into consideration by Somerset's planning officer, along with all the other statutory consultee responses and responses from neighbours. And then, as Shane and Helen have alluded to, depending on the officer's findings, they will then either make the decision themselves in conjunction with their senior manager through a delegated process, or it will be referred up to the planning board and discussed by all of the councillors on that planning board at Somerset, who will then either agree or disagree with the officer's recommendation. So our comments are taking into account the view from a local perspective, and obviously what's great is that you're all here being directly and immediately affected by it, so we can also reflect what we hear from you as the residents, but ultimately we do not make the final decision. We can only make a recommendation as to what we think that decision should be.
Helen, is it still the case if the residents have actually put a comment in the portal, they will get advised if it goes to the planning board?
I'm afraid I don't know. Did that used to be the case? All right.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I didn't know that, and I don't know if that's still. I can find out, because I'm going to be quizzing them anyway about this notification business, so I can ask.
So it used to be, when it was mended, it used to be the case that if you had put a comment on the portal, if it went to planning board, you would get a notification of when it was going to planning board, the date and the time, etc. I would hope that is still the case, but we'll try and find out.
I don't know either, I'm afraid. We haven't been getting notifications ourselves of applications going to the planning board. But obviously, as soon as we are aware, we will make sure that, I mean, I certainly let Wendy know, and then Wendy can pass that along. But yeah, and I know that Helen is working hard to try and get that changed for us.
Thanks, Jane. Wendy?
Yeah, so thanks. On that last point, yeah, Wendy Miller-Williams, also a resident of Styles Close. From what I recollect, Nikki White said if you click on the track thing, that you will be notified automatically if it goes to the planning board. Next point was going back to Tina's, mentioning the lease. So it's got an agricultural tie on it, the plot at the minute. So you can put a planning application in for a plot that's agricultural without it being applied for to industrial, or how does that work? At what stage would they apply for change of use?
I believe because this is a full application, although it's not specifically said in the description, that incorporates a change of use. But if the land is agriculturally tied, my view is that the description should also include the removal of an agricultural tie. Just to comment on one of the previous things that's been mentioned, that the lady with the lease, the fact that there is a lease in place won't stop a planning permission from being issued. However, from a civil point of view, obviously the lease that the lady has would need to be talked about with whoever's issued that lease, and then they would need to look at any possible break clauses and the impact. So unfortunately, the lease won't stop an application from being determined, but obviously then there are knock-on consequences to that.
Thank you. Yes, I've got one more, which was the main thing I was going to speak about initially. National Grid. It seems strange to a lot of us that there's no official kind of partnership arrangement on the cards with Trina Solar, and I'm wondering what does the National Grid think about it? So if you look at the map, you can see that it's very, very close on the left-hand side. You've got 3 meters, I think, at the nearest point at the front, and that extends to 8 meters at the back. So the Fire Chiefs Council suggest a buffer zone of 10 meters, just to avoid any combustible vegetation, etc., catching fire. It's not possible to provide that, and you've got the pylon on the left-hand side abutting the boundary of the plot there. I think that's it. Yeah. Just carrying on. They'll have to remove the vegetation, even though they've said in the application they won't remove any vegetation. All that vegetation on the left obviously would have to be removed.
Thanks, Wendy. Any questions? Any gentleman at the back?
My name is David Lake. I do actually overlook this site. I'm a bit confused about the agent turning up. What's he going to say? Is he going to put something on the portal so we can see it before he arrives? Or do we have to make comments after he's been? I'm not sure what he's coming for.
Sorry.
The agent.
Yes, he's not here.
No, but aren't you allowing him to turn up in 2 weeks' time or something? Or am I confused? There's another planning meeting.
Yeah, do you want to?
Yeah, so as some of you might be aware, I had a call from the company yesterday saying that their intention is to respond to a lot of the questions and issues that they've seen that have already been submitted from residents on the portal. And they'll also be providing some additional information. And they asked if we would consider not discussing the application at this meeting and defer it until our next meeting, which is on the 10th of August. Thank you. And they would actually be available to attend that meeting. Unfortunately, they said that there was nobody available this evening to attend, but they would be available at the next meeting. However, we have spoken with them earlier today because we had some questions, and they did suggest that actually they would make themselves available to come and talk with residents. So, you know, if that's something that you would like us to try and arrange, now whether that would be in person or not, I'm not 100% sure, but if not, we can arrange some kind of video conferencing here at the town hall if you'd be interested in doing that, and you can speak to them.
Confused how we interact with him. He can tell us anything. How do I then? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
How do I interact with the agent? He's going to give me a spiel, and I'm going to look like that. I got no time to get my thoughts out and challenge him what he's saying to me. So when do I get that?
As Jane's saying, we met with company earlier today to try on virtually to try to put some of the questions to them, and we were saying, you know, that obviously you would be coming along this evening, and one of the things that they said was that they're aware all the objections that have been made on the planning portal, and what they're doing is making sure that they are working through every single one to be able to respond to those. So they didn't exactly say that the reason they're not coming is that they're not ready to respond to all of those, but that there's a lot to respond to, and they are intending to complete an entire document. So basically what they're assuring us is that if your objection has gone onto the portal, it will be responded to by the company.
But then I've got,
So you didn't have to do it on the spot, is what I'm saying.
this is just more and more bump which I've got to go through, and then again do remarks. When do we stop this? Does he then say, oh, on another meeting in 8 weeks' time, and then we've got to respond again?
And I've noticed, though, that quite a lot of the objections, you know, fall into categories like noise and fire and chemical runoff, and you know, there's a lot that can be covered that sort of overlap, and I think they're aware of that, aren't they?
Yeah, they are aware of that.
I'm still utterly confused, because you can give me as much bump as they want. It's not going to change what we already said. So what is the relevance of it? All they're trying to do is keep it going, give me more bump. We're going to end up with about 200 documents.
Well, there is a process, and at the end of the process, it will go to Somerset, and a final decision will be made at Somerset, and this is the start of that process.
I still think it's unsatisfactory.
Consultation with us. Is it just going to be like a cozy chat over a cup of coffee, or is it going to be an official? Are we going to be in an official?
Well, we can. There'll be another planning meeting on the 10th, which is a formal planning meeting, and hopefully they've already said they can make that meeting. And if you come along to that meeting as well, that will be a formal meeting. But as I said before, we don't make the decision. That will be made at Somerset.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're going to be accommodated by allowing them to come when they.
Yeah.
Yes, I suppose is the answer to that. I mean, I think one of the things that we'll also be asking for is some more detailed plans and risk assessments. And just because they submit those actually doesn't necessarily, doesn't automatically mean we're going to support their proposals. In my view, those more detailed plans, which will show the pylons and the overhead cables and the levels at which the houses are in cross sections, possibly could go towards making it look even more obvious that it's not something that could be supported, as could the risk assessment. But I think, we need that information so that it does clarify those things one way or another. So just because we're going to give them the opportunity to provide more information doesn't necessarily mean that we were going going to support it. As I say, I think it might actually highlight in more detail just how impactful it's going to be.
Thank you. I've sort of given you all of those points that I made earlier, but since you're not making a decision today, and this is sort of advisory, I wanted to share my personal feelings on this. My partner and I and our little boy, we came to Frome recently in November, and I can guarantee you, had I known what I know today and saw an application for this, I would not be living in Frome right now. I love living in Styles Close. It is wonderful. These are fantastic neighbors. It's a great place to bring up children. We have friends that grew up there, and that's why we moved here, because they said Styles Close is such a wonderful place to bring up children. And now we're going to have this threat on our doorstep. So that little boy, I need to take him home and put him to bed. I'm sure you've heard him well a moment ago. So I just want to leave this with you because I've not seen my objection appear on the portal just yet. Most of what I've said is in there. There's a few additional pieces. There's links to stuff like hydrofluoric acid, which will happen if you mix it with water. Please Google Trina Solar and forced labor if you haven't done so already. I'm going to leave you with that one. Okay? Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Yeah, can you can we have your notes, or could you send your notes to us?
Yeah, so I've sent an email, but yeah, you can have these notes. That's what I've sent to you today.
That's brilliant.
Great, thank you very much.
But Wendy has my email address if you'd like to contact me. My name is Douglas Easton.
I've got that. Thank you very much. Thank you. Tracy.
I just wanted to make an observation, really. My name's Tracy Ashford. I'm one of the Frome Town councillors, although I'm not on the planning board. And I came along, I think it was Wendy and I in particular that were maybe chatting on and off a little bit on social media. And obviously I'm interested because I live in Frome and I care. I think I just wanted to say, having not been a councillor until fairly recently, and now being involved in these things, that when you're not hearing here from a council, either a very strong pro or a very anti to this application or to what you're saying, it's not because they don't have a view on it, it's because that's the process, and it's because things need to be taken into consideration, and the neutral listening and taking notes and processing doesn't in any way suggest that my colleagues aren't hearing and listening to you. We just can't, or they can't make decisions which way to go until full information is gathered. So I'm sorry there isn't a kind of uproarious, but I'm uproariously personally, I can't speak on behalf of cheering for you here. So keep saying what you have to say. I wouldn't be too worried if it felt like a nice coffee. You can be as robust as you like in your response and what you propose to them. If you speak to them, you need to be heard, and it's important. We live in a democracy. There is a process. Follow the process, put your formal complaints in, try and attend the meetings, even if they unfortunately have set the timetable slightly. Just, you know, stick with your guns, really. You are being heard.
Thank you. Thank you, Tracy. Any?
London?
London, yeah. Is it London? London.
Yeah.
London, Luxembourg,
Are there any other questions before I go to councillors?
I don't think I'm particularly ignorant, but I elect people to act on my behalf, and I don't know how the Somerset Council Planning Board, I don't know who's on it, I don't know who I need to approach, I don't know who represents Frome on it, or who. Yeah, but are
Helen
you,
Kay-
are you the only person that represents Frome? No.
Oh, Adam Boydham,
Can I
yeah.
ask Frome Town Council to assist its residents in telling them who are on the board, the planning board that's going to look at this proposal? Who do we need to lobby?
It should all be on the website, isn't it?
I believe it's all on our website, but what I can do is I can extract that for you.
Are we able to invite Somerset councillors that are on that board to come and meet with us on site
Absolutely, you are, yes.
with your assistance?
You can contact them directly, or we can contact them on your behalf, or it may find it easier to have a chat with Councillor Helen Kay, who sat there, who, as she said, is on the planning board, and I'm sure has heard everything that you've said this evening.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, sure, please.
So when it goes to planning board, and it will, and I suspect it won't be for several months, because they're coming on the 10th, or they're not, but they're going to put something in writing about risk assessments, and then they'll probably have a chance to respond to that again, and the planning officer has to think about it. So it's going to be September, October, before it goes to planning board. What normally happens is, with the officer, I can arrange for what they call a site visit. So all the planning board members will come and look at it. And those planning board members are from a range of people from the old Mendip District Council area. So you will have people coming over from Glastonbury or Street or Shepton that don't know the area very well. But you've also got Dawn Denton and Adam Boyden, who are they represent the area of North Frome. They're on the board. And myself and Martin Dimmery, who represents the west of Frome. So we have got 4 Frome councillors on that board out of 13. So, we should have some sway, but we're not allowed to be predetermined. So we're allowed to be predisposed, so we can be predisposed to be against it, but we can't be predetermined. We've got to have an open mind. Right? But when we have that site visit, at that point, we could possibly organise something where they come and have a cup of tea at the town hall and meet the residents. I don't know, or we meet you on site, or we walk them round Styles Close and say, and you all have a stall outside your house, with placards or whatever. I'm sure there'll be a way that we can work out how to do it. Yeah.
Thank you, Helen. Okay, right. I'm going to go to councillors now. Which end shall I start? Philip, you're mayor. He's got the microphone as well. Yeah.
Good evening. This particular application, it proposes or it brings forward a lot of problems in terms of its location. I think, as was stated right at the beginning, we all subscribe to the fact of, carbon neutral, green energy, and so on. One of the aspects of this particular site is that it will probably be drawing from a nearby solar farm. And the question is, could that not be better sited next to the solar farm, so that it is in keeping with what's happening at the solar farm, and also moving it away from a residential area. And as Shane knows, dealing with the gas turbine on Marsden, and I'm also dealing with a noise issue of a local food outlet in town, which backs onto a residential area. Some sound mitigation was later installed, which has made no difference whatsoever. So I too would be very concerned regarding the acoustic fence. I don't think that a substantial reduction would be enough to reduce the noise level to a satisfactory level. Also, we know it's an untried technology to a certain extent, and I personally do have some concerns regarding the possibility of accidents and fires, and the reaction has been mentioned this evening in terms of training of local fire service and their reactions to that. I think that's all I need to say at the moment. Thank you.
Polly.
Hi everyone. Met some of you up at Styles Close when we came to have a look at the site, and thanks very much for all your time and your objections. It's really useful. really useful to hear from you then and now. One of the things, I mean, we've had 2 meetings with Trina Solar since then, and have, brought a lot of your points to them. And I sort of welcome them being compelled to go away and, bring us more information. I think that's a really positive thing. I have said this to them twice now that, is that on? Yeah, I've said this to them twice now that we, as Jane explained before, we are an advisory board, and Jane has the planning training, and our job is to listen to the information and make a decision based upon all the things that are put forward. And very often that's extensions and tree felling and things like that. That's very, very often what comes here. This is not that. This is something that is not just new technology, but it's also extremely complex technology. And I have stressed to them that the onus is upon them to make it absolutely very clear to us, to give us the right information so that we can make the best advisory decision for going forward. So I don't have a problem with them coming back and giving us more information, more clarity. They know that we are not just going to go, oh, okay, that sounds all right, and put it through, because we have grilled them. So I just need you to have that reassurance that this isn't something that is just gliding on through. We are having extensive discussions with them and desperately trying to get our heads around chemical engineering, as much as we are, in the limitation of being able to do as lay people. I just want it to be able to be able to make it really clear to you.
Thanks, Polly. And Lisa.
Thank you, Steve. I mean, I share the same views as my colleagues. I would feel very uncomfortable if I were living in Styles Close. For me, there isn't enough answers. There seems to be a lot of risk that hasn't been explained, or there's no mitigation plan. It would make me feel very uncomfortable. And I also support what Polly and the rest of my colleagues are saying about finding out more information. We are committed to making an informed, considered decision, but I have absolutely heard what you've said, and I can imagine I would be feeling the same way.
Thanks, Lisa. Mark?
Yes, I was pleased I could come and see you the other day on that rainy day when we looked down the hill and saw how close it was going to be to some of your houses and the view that you're going to get from your back garden. This planning committee has had a lot of success in the past in persuading developers to change their plans, but that's been mostly residential. This is untried technology. It's uncharted waters for us as a board, I think, as a committee. We need to find out a lot more about it. As it stands, I'm not at all happy with it. We can't even point to it's going to provide employment opportunities for Frome, which is something that we often like to see, which is why we don't let commercial buildings be changed into residential if we can possibly help it. You may get a tarmac contractor to put an extension to Styles Close to put access to it, but after that, it'll be plonked there. They will have somebody visiting once a month to make sure it's not caught on fire. And that's all it's going to be. The fact that they have to put such large mitigation in for acoustic fencing does tell a story. I think they wouldn't do that for fun. So I don't think we know enough about it. I think we need to ask them a load more questions. But as it is, I think it's probably in the wrong place.
Yeah, I sort of agree with everything that's been said. We are lay people. We're just like you guys at the end of the day. We're not chemical engineers and we've no idea how these things work. And we've been bombarded with technical details and drawings and all kinds of graphs and things, which, we're struggling to get our heads around the same as anyone else. and I think, like everyone else said, there's just so many questions that are unanswered about the site. Why this site? Did they look at other sites? And what they intend to do here. You know, I think Frome prides itself on being a progressive town. I mean, we are at the forefront of a lot of things, but you know, this to a certain extent is sort of almost prototypical technology to us, you know, certainly where it is in relation to contamination to the river, and obviously where you guys live. And you know, I'm pretty uncomfortable with Frome sort of being used as a sort of a guinea pig at the end of the day for something like this. So it's very, you know, it is incredibly hard for us, and we have heard everything that you said and take it all on board. You know, we haven't got enough information in front of us to make any sort of decision on this. We are relying on them to come back to us. But I think, as Polly said, to come back to us with answers that we can understand as lay people. What is the impact going to be? Not lots of technical things about sound and about you know, if this happens, whatever. You know, what is likely to happen at this site, and in black and white and very, very clear that we can understand. So I think you need to give us all of this information and come to see us and you guys. And sit in front of us and go through these points one by one. So that's where I'm coming from. Jane, over to you as the technical expert on this.
Oh dear, thank you, Steve. I mean, really all I can say on the technical side at the moment is one of the statutory consultees that has already responded is the Somerset's Environmental Protection Officer, who has objected to the application on the grounds that of the noise impacts that it will have on the adjoining properties, adjacent properties. Other than that, none of the other statutory consultees, who, if you like, are the ones who will provide that expert advice, although, as we've already said, this is actually something quite new. So it may be that they have to consult wider and get more expertise, because I'm not sure that anybody at Somerset has dealt with this type of application before, which again is part of why we need all that extra information. But if you're happy for me to liaise, or if Wendy's happy for me to liaise with Wendy to look at how we can put you in touch with the Somerset councillors, and just to confirm that there will in fact be a representative here from the company at our next meeting, or indeed if you would prefer us to try and arrange either a formal or a more informal meeting with the applicants themselves prior to that meeting. Let us know what it is you would like us to do to try and help you, and obviously we'll be in touch with Shane and Helen as well, and the other Somerset councillors. But let us know what it is you need, and if we can help, we will.
So for the record, we need to actually give a response, don't we?
We can either give a response, or as we may have sort of discussed earlier, we can say that we will defer any response from this meeting until we've got the information. Although I think it's fair to say that the consensus with councillors at the moment is that they're not happy with the application as it stands. So you can take a vote on that if you want to at this point in time, which might reassure the residents, but we can still defer sending any formal response to the application.
I think I got that.
Is it too late to ask? So the company, by asking to come again, is delaying your response?
Yeah, I suppose you could look at it that way, but no, I don't.
No, I don't think they are, because there's so many statutory consultees that haven't responded as well. At the end of the day, we have to take advice from experts, people like, highways experts, Environment Agency, the fire safety officers and things like that. It would be unwise of us to go against any of their recommendations. And if they haven't made any recommendations, really we should wait for them to make their recommendations and we look at them. So I can see where you're coming from in terms of, are they delaying? I suppose, yes, you could say they are delaying a little bit, but is that such a bad thing? Because it gives all the other statutory consultees a chance to actually, say what they want to say, and it gives us a chance to actually look at all those responses, and then we can make a bit more of an informed decision than we can at the moment.
It just feels that at the moment, with what you know, you might say you're against it, but you're delaying it.
Steve.
It just feels like that.
Yeah, sorry, Polly.
I totally understand what you're saying, and I just wanted to respond to that. Somebody, I can't remember who it was, one of you mentioned that about things like being a guinea pig, or why would Froome take this sort of first. I think that if we are pressing them to come up with information that is pertinent to the planning, I think it was Douglas that said, this about this being a precedent, and why should Froome run that example? If they are compelled to respond to all of your objections and come back with all information, that is ensuring that if it then does go up to planning board, they've got the full information to decide upon. That's not necessarily giving more time. That's just a fair hearing, as if you like. But what will happen then is if they can see more information that is pertinent to making the decision, and the decision is then firmly against that battery energy storage site being there, then that's based upon all of the full information. So that's a better result for Froome, but it's also a better result as a test bed, isn't it? Because they've been compelled to go away and find out and present the information in full. And I think that that's better for everybody. So that's why I would like to defer, because I would like to see them come and get the information.
Sorry, can you just give people online can't hear if you don't use a mic? Sorry.
When they present, if they come back with all these details and information, is that then checked? I mean, do you just take what they say? Oh no, the noise will be so many decibels. I mean, I don't know how this works, but do we then say, oh right, well it's going to be such and such, or is it everything checked for what they say?
The reason why that we were talking about being lay people and there being statutory consultees. So we are listening to you and we are representing people in the town, but there are experts who are being consulted and we'd like to hear from them.
So on the noise, the Environment Agency? Environmental Protection. I've got that wrong all day, actually. They've already objected on the subject of noise. So the applicant has to come back not just to us, but also to them, because they can't really move forward with that objection in place. Or they can, but it would be very, very dangerous of them to move forward with that objection in place. So they need to come back with additional information that satisfies that statutory consultee and go forward.
At risk of repetition, there is the same sized battery storage unit which South Somerset invested on a couple of years ago at Fiddy Oak near Taunton. So no, I don't know if it's possible to go down there and measure the noise from 32 meters away, but this is not starting from scratch. This is happening already about 50 miles away in Taunton. So it should be possible to get sound levels from them.
Thanks. Lisa.
Can I just come back on the...
Sure.
Just very briefly on the acoustic point.
Yep.
One case I'm dealing with on my ward, on Keyford Ward, I followed the process through. I mean, it was a done deal, but I followed the process through, and there has to be a background acoustic check done first. That's basically then the baseline, and then you have to take in any other extraneous noises that may appear, because I know people have mentioned trains going past and all sorts of things. And then you have to measure, or it has to be calculated, the amount of noise that that actual site will produce. And then they will calculate backwards to mitigate to a certain sound level. That's not, and it can't possibly be going back to the base level. There is a phrase which I'm very concerned about, and I'm dealing with this for a couple of residents, is that the term that's used is, this increased sound level, it's used is within acceptable levels. And that doesn't actually tell you anything. So you have to challenge that. So that's where I am with that. So as Steve says, the process is robust to a point, as long as each bit has been done carefully and correctly.
Thanks for it. Lisa, sorry.
Just quickly, what I've been encouraged by is everyone's commitment to providing greener energy and green solutions. I think that's really encouraging. And I also don't think that we should be scared or not be interested in innovation. And I haven't heard that that's been your issue. I think if Trina giving us more information allows them to think differently about how they could use this as a solution, whether that's in terms of mitigating the sound or putting it somewhere else, that can only be a good thing. We're going to need solutions like this. So further consultation, further opportunities for them to come up with solutions that don't negatively impact the areas that they're looking to develop that in would be really important. So I am in favor of finding out more. Given the information that I have at the minute, I wouldn't be able to support the application, but I would like to give the company an opportunity to work better and work with the residents as well, or find a completely different space where it doesn't impact.
Thanks, Lisa. Anything else to add? No? So I think based on that, and based on comments that we're hearing, we should defer any decision and get the applicant in front of us and in front of you to answer the questions that you've put. That should enable us and everybody else to make a more informed decision. So I have no idea. No idea. So if we, do we have to vote on that? Right, so I'll propose that we defer, if we can vote on that. Sorry?
So Douglas.
Yeah.
Away on the 10th of August. What happens if they're available now? But
Well, the 10th of August is the next planning meeting. Right. 10th of August. Is it the 10th? Yeah. Yeah. We could arrange the meeting outside then.
Yeah, I mean, to make our formal response, it has to be done at the meeting, but we can, I mean, we have Douglas's comments, or as Steve said, absolutely, yeah.
being able to respond to whatever they...
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I mean, we could look at changing the date, or taking it to the next meeting, but I think there's always going to be somebody who's not going to be available. And yeah, or as I say, can arrange for Douglas and any other residents who want to speak directly with the applicants outside of our formal meeting, and do it that way if you're concerned that Douglas won't have his voice heard by them. Yeah, but please, as I've said, maybe if you're happy to have a discussions amongst yourselves about, as I've already said, how we can help you, what is the best way for you to get your thoughts heard by the applicants, whether that's a separate meeting, we still have to have our formal meeting, a formal public meeting to take an official vote. So we will do that. But if we can accommodate other people being involved, then we'll do the best we can.
Previously, I've been present at a planning meeting, so I can raise my voice, which I believe was a Mendip District Council planning meeting held in Rook Lane Chapel. Would that have been the case previously? Would they have held meetings locally and not in Shepton?
Many years ago, probably about 15, 20 years ago. Yes, that was the case.
When
Yeah.
Hillside and the other, I can't remember the streets, Elwood, when all that planning was going through, we as residents were able to come along to that meeting.
Yes.
Now there's no Mendip District Council. Do all the planning meetings happen in Taunton?
No. So
Still in
yeah,
Shepton.
it'll still be in Shepton because the areas that were previously the district councils, in terms of how they.
I read.
Yes. So all the
Encompass.
So the meeting will be at Shepton. You won't have to go to Taunton.
So we're part of Somerset East, and Somerset East's meetings are still held at the old Mendip offices in Shepton.
Because I knew Mendip had come to Frome for
Yeah.
that meeting. I'm just wondering, with something that is so big and is so new and a guinea pig that Frome is going to be, whether that meeting could come to Frome.
They don't often,
No.
just because of the way the hybrid and the IT is set up. Well, I think that was the reason. But
Yeah, you're talking in the days of when they had area boards, and then the system changed again, and everything was centralised at that point into Shepton. We asked for the applications for Saxon Vale when they were discussed to be heard in Frome, and they weren't able to do it. So I would say it's very unlikely, unfortunately. When we try as we might, we don't have any control over that.
Thank you. Right, so I'm going to propose that we defer, requesting lots more information. Thank you very much.
And that's unanimous. Thank you.
Great. Thank you all for coming along. Very interesting. Thank you for your time. And it looks like we'll be seeing most of you again as well in the future. Thank you. Yes, we know. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Okay. Thank you very much.